All right, welcome back to another episode of The Aspiring VC. Your host, Matt Snow with Mass Ventures here. Had the pleasure of speaking with Kim Nguyen of MassMutual Ventures, also known as Kimmy. But before we get into anything serious, Kim, Dunkin' or Starbucks, what's your pick?
Starbucks, and it's that drink that went viral this weekend, I think last week. The brown sugar oat milk is my current go-to.
I have to say I'm really not surprised, but that's awesome. I think it goes along with the vibe that you give off. Um, but let's do a 2-minute summary, Kim. Like, who are you? What is MassMutual Ventures? What's the role that you got into?
Sure. So I'm in LA right now and have born and raised in the LA area. Ended up going to school at UC San Diego, so not too far from home, and ended up during undergrad working in investing roles across different VC funds from seed to growth, and ended up joining MassMutual Ventures upon graduation last summer, and have been here ever since. And I can also go into a little bit about MassMutual Ventures. We manage 300 million here on behalf of our sole LP, MassMutual, the Fortune 100 life insurance company, and investing in early stage companies, primarily Series A. Enterprise software and fintech is kind of our bread and butter.
Awesome. And it seems like, the MassMutual Ventures is probably one of the best run corporate venture arms, from what I can tell from the outside. Just in the level of capital, kind of the front end, or kind of cutting edge thinking, being on a true, wave of tech that's, maybe it's because you guys have a financial mandate, right? And you don't have to be purely strategic. You can just invest in what is the best, technology, what are the most promising investments. But it'd be interesting to hear, like, what makes it so successful.
Sure. So, I mean, we like to think of ourselves as a VC attached to a life insurance company, meaning, like you said, we don't have a strategic mandate, but can put our portfolio companies first and put our entrepreneurs first. And so I think it combines the best of two worlds. So on one hand, we're able to leverage the expertise of our colleagues within cybersecurity, data science, within Haven Life, and different business units like Bearings, and really get to see and get visibility into pain points that large enterprises are facing today. And I think that gives us a pretty unique perspective into what, when we're speaking to founders and startups, what solutions are really exciting to a potential enterprise customer.
Absolutely. And, going back to even maybe as early as like when you started college, like, can you explain just like, venture is so hard to break into? Like, how did you get to this position that you're in right now?
Sure. I mean, I would say looking back, always knew I wanted to do kind of the intersection of tech and investing. So half my family are on the tech side, work at Google, are out in Silicon Valley, and the other are on the finance side. And so I think growing up, had a lot of respect for my parents and what they do, and wanted to do something at the intersection of both. So I ended up reaching out to a lot of local firms down in San Diego during my time in school, and was able to really fortunately be able to land a couple internships that kind of spanned across growth, and early stage corporate development, and banking. And I think I got lucky and connected with the team at MMV, and here I am.
And like when you think about all the experiences that kind of like led you along the way, like internships and everything, like how did you go about networking? How did you go about like finding your passion and I don't know, like starting to understand like the opaque like aspect of like venture?
Yeah, I mean, from what our conversations before this, Matt, it sounds like you might be a little bit better on the networking front. But I think it was just, I think when you're a student, or if you're if you're just likable and have personality, I think, and you end up reaching out to someone who looks interesting, whether you come across them on the internet, Twitter, LinkedIn, or whatever means, I think people are open to speaking. And I think that was how I initially landed my first couple internships on the finance and investing side. And so I think from just a networking perspective, I think as long as you're not a pain to talk to and you're eager to learn, I think people are going to be receptive and open to chatting.
And I definitely agree with you there. And especially for the listeners that are still in college, like take advantage of it because especially if it's their alma mater, alumni are always going to talk to you. Um, but just in general, I think people are kind of happy to provide advice to the college students. But
And
what else do you recommend for the people that are trying to break into the industry?
so I think how I started was I started to just casually chat with a lot of people who seem to really enjoy what they do. And I think when you start talking and meeting new people, you get inspired about what they're doing and building, and learn what they're doing. And so you start to kind of fine tune what you're interested in and where your skill set kind of aligns with that, and then are able to get inspired. And so I think earlier on, initially wanted to do accounting, realized soon enough that wasn't for me after speaking to a lot of people who are in accounting and started to um, shift and talk to more people. And so I ended up making just a list of kind of potential firms that I wanted to work at, and began to just reach out and set up coffee chats and meet people. And whenever I was in town, whether that be SF or New York, I would just reach out and say, hey, like we've been talking for a while. I'm in town. Let's grab coffee or drinks or something and catch up.
That's awesome. And I know obviously it worked out for you, right? So part of it's just part of it's a numbers game and part of it is being at the right place at the right time. But um
I don't know necessarily a numbers game, but I think it's being kind of strategic. And when you're reaching out, don't just say I want to pick your brains, but be able to sound a little bit more intelligent and be a little bit more strategic, so you're not wasting people's time and just mass blasting people and spamming their inbox.
yeah, and like did you, before breaking in, did you like try to source people deals or like connect them to like someone who could be an LP or do something like that that was kind of like a more of like a value add type thing?
No, no value. I think I don't know why I got hired. But no, I that is a really great way though. So I'll start off by saying that is a great way to break in by doing the job, before you join and actually are employed full time. But just doing the job, whether that be doing deep dives into sectors or bringing people deals, and adding value, like you said, I think in this industry, being a value add and is is what people always talk about. But no, not necessarily. I think something that I did bring though was just enthusiasm to learn and excitement to learn and be there and just be really grateful. Um, excuse me, for like the chance to just be chatting. People are really busy, so I think that kind of came through. Like, hey, you're taking 30 minutes when you could be speaking to a founder or an LP, and I really appreciate that. So
Totally, yeah. I think like being grateful. I think yeah, gratitude and empathy are probably like two really underrated things here. And I think
and I
there's a
think
lot
I
you
think
can do.
also smiling. People don't smile enough these days, I think, and it doesn't kill anyone. So I think that also goes a long way.
Yeah, well, I know that you smile a lot, and it's definitely appreciated. I think you tend to light up the room. Yeah, I think we hit on it a little bit, but what I guess I know that you're social. I know that you like to learn about a lot of different things, but what else pulled you into venture capital?
Somewhat social. I think I'm an introvert pretending to be an extrovert. So what else pulled me into venture? I think founders. I mean, you and I both spend our days speaking to founders who are making big bets on the future and are really excited about what the future holds and change. So I get excited by people who are excited and passionate. And I think there are a lot of opportunities and demands for new tech and new solutions that address issues that we're looking at today. So what, like democratizing wealth, student debt, digitizing, the home buying experience, so it's more accessible to the millennials of the world, and just democratizing the whole wealth experience. And so yeah, that's something that we look at a lot here at MMV, and so I think that's really exciting to me. So basically, just meeting founders and speaking to founders all day who are excited about the future.
Absolutely. And um, what, I guess in your time so far at like MMV, what are some of the companies or like a specific, group that you've met? I don't know, something that's kind of hit along this impact lens that you have, or, a sector or focus area that has kind of brought up that's in line with, something that you're really excited about.
Sure. I mean, we look at a lot of fintech products here. So a portfolio company of ours, tuition.io, is basically in the student debt repayment space, and offering that as an employee benefits. And so I think the work there is really impactful, and I think it's extremely relevant for you and I think I graduated a lot more recently than you, but I think for folks who are just coming out of school or still have a lot of student debt, I think it's really meaningful mission.
Absolutely. And I think a massive pain point, obviously a big market. And, but a super important kind of impact area within fintech. And I don't think people normally think of fintech as being impact, but it is
I think
nice.
it's an embedded finance and embedded insurance, and then more payments. But yeah, there's a lot of depth, and a lot of new solutions out there that are really exciting. So
Absolutely. If you're ready, we can go into some of these rapid fire questions.
all right, let's see if I can answer them.
It shouldn't be too hard. First one, who's been your most important mentor, or one of them, and just what is something they said or did that still stays in mind today?
So I think not. I don't know if I've had one specific mentor, but I think more broadly, I think a lot of the communities where, like, women in VC community and all race community, been able to meet a lot of other women that are just starting out their careers in venture, and it's been great to meet and have become extremely close with a lot of the people that I've just recently met, and haven't even met in person yet, which is kind of crazy with COVID. But I think I had attended a conference that our school hosts each year, and Vignesh at Sierra Ventures had spoken a couple times, and I think had attended his panel my freshman year of college, and I think that was, I think, intro to venture and investing, and I still keep in touch with him today, and so I think meeting him and hearing more about what he does was what kind of led me down this path a bit.
And like outside of MassMutual Ventures, like who is one of your favorite VCs? Could be another firm or like another, GP specific person.
Yes, I love Sarah Greylock, and she also invests in enterprise software and has had incredible success and exits to date, and she's awesome. So I was, as part of All Raise, they host fireside chats with GPs, and I just attended one with Sarah this week.
That's awesome. And when you're looking at startups, what are the characteristics of business that like get you really excited about potentially investing?
So I think we invest in Series A here. So I think Series A definition has been, I think, shifted a little bit in recent years with there's so much capital in the markets, and and so I think for us traditionally what we get excited about is generally product market fit, repeatable sales process, and founders who are passionate about the product, who have had experience and exposure in the space so far. So that's kind of how we think about it here. I think that we are having conversations about how our investment thesis is or should be shifted, with just the current funding and in market right now.
And for you personally, both I guess venture and then just like things that you like to follow, what are the podcasts, books, and blogs that you find yourself going to?
So I primarily there's a couple good ones. I primarily follow a lot of my friends have done Substacks and put out their weekly newsletters recently, so I've been reading those. I think top of mind, I think also Greylock has a really good podcast that they put out with Reid Hoffman, and I like listening to that. There's a long list. I have a long list of them, but I think what I do maybe more regularly and on a weekly basis is just keeping up to date with what my friends at other funds are writing and doing that. So
And then like outside of work stuff, like what's the content that you like to follow, or um, your interests and stuff?
outside of work, what content? So I would say I like reading, but I don't know if you'd really call it content. I like classical literature, and I don't know if you'd really consider that content though. But that's what I like reading and doing on the weekends.
That's super cool. I never knew. We've talked so many
Reading.
times, and I've never known this about you. Like what
Yeah,
drew you? What draws you to classical literature?
I don't know. I think there's. I mean, it's a classic. I don't know how else to describe it. And I think is. I mean, in school, we read a lot of classical literature, and I think it just resonated with me. And so you can't see because I have my background on, but I have a huge bookcase. Actually, it's three, and it's basically all books behind me. So
Uh, so I'm a huge
learning
like
new things, Matt. Learning new things
yeah
about me.
every time. I'm actually a huge nonfiction guy, so like 95% of the time if I'm reading, it's a nonfiction book.
Is
Uh,
it about Bitcoin, or have they written nonfiction about Bitcoin yet?
no, I mean, yeah, but I read all sorts of stuff, economics, history, whatever. But I think pushing myself to get into more fiction, classical literature would probably be a more easier way to do that than potentially like a modern fiction novel, for me. But it's interesting. Surprised to hear that. So it's super cool. You know, Took this question from Tim Ferriss, but really enjoy it. What's a purchase of $100 or a couple hundred that has had, outsized amount of happiness or utility for you?
I discovered these pants during COVID that you can really wear 24/7. So they're pajama pants, but they don't look like pajama pants, and they're kind of revolutionary and amazing. And so that I would say pants that you can wear 24/7, and people don't realize that, they're your sleep clothes.
That is awesome. I am a huge fan of the, um, Lululemon and like Banana Republic work pants that look like work pants on the
Oh,
outside, that
I'm familiar.
they just yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, why once you start, now that everyone's been able to work from home, are we ever going to go back to a world in which you have uncomfy pants? Like, why were we doing that? Why aren't all,
I
you know,
mean, if you work in tech, then you can just wear shorts to the office, and it's not frowned upon. So
right?
maybe we should.
Yeah, maybe we need to adopt more of that on the East Coast. Take some more Silicon Valley mindset.
Yeah, forget you're in Boston, and people don't do that there. We do out here on the West Coast. So
Well, I wouldn't speak for. I think there's plenty of tech and startup, companies here that are taking that approach. Kim, I want to make sure you promote yourself. Where can people find you online? Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere else?
Twitter, LinkedIn. I think I don't know if you can just drop my handle or something, but Twitter or LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, Kim, I know you got a lot going on, so I really appreciate you taking the time for this episode. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Kim.
Looking to innovate, invent, and disrupt? We're your partner to fuel your growth. Contact us to learn more.